German agriculture and chemicals giant Bayer has confirmed a multi-billion-dollar takeover deal with the American GM foods company Monsanto. Monsanto is known for its genetically modified crops, which have caused quite a backlash in Europe.
At the center of the new business will be the production of genetically modified soybeans, which both companies have been developing. It's a massive industry. Only wheat, corn, and rice are grown on a bigger scale worldwide. More than 330 million tons of soy are expected to be produced this year. Monsanto wants to grow a new type of bean across 222,000 square kilometers of farmland by 2019. That's an area almost as big as Ghana. So what's it used for? Well, around 75% of soybeans are said to go into animal feed. In fact, every kilo of chicken farmed requires around 575 grams of soy to produce it. And there are other concerns. Monsanto's Roundup weed killer, which it uses on soybeans, has been investigated for possible links to cancer. A UN panel decided the risk was unlikely, but consumers may not be reassured.
Global agricultural sectors are racing to consolidate, and Bayer AG's $66 billion all-cash deal to acquire Monsanto Corporation is the latest example. The acquisition will test growing political and consumer unease in the United States and abroad. At issue is the future of food production. According to the company's executives, Bayer's pesticide-focused agricultural business has few overlaps with Monsanto's dominant seed franchise. Regardless, marrying two of the world's top farm suppliers is fueling concern over fewer players competing in the $100 billion global market. Rival companies are also merging. David Balto, a former policy director at the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, said Monsanto and Bayer have chosen to do a deal in the year of merging dangerously. They are in for a tough time.
It has remained untouched for 10,000 years, boasting some of Europe's tallest trees and 20,000 animal species, from the very small to Europe's last population of wild bison. But this year, the Białowieża forest spruce trees are under attack from the bark beetle, one of the worst outbreaks anyone can remember. Jerzy Lugovoy, a forester here for 35 years, showed me another victim, a huge spruce, 150 years old, now dying. He supports the Polish government's controversial decision this year to increase logging to try and control the outbreak. It's a decision that has caused international outcry and an EU investigation.
As soon as we stop fighting the beetle by stopping the logging, in a few years we won't have any spruce trees left over 25 years old. I want the next generation to see the forest the way we enjoy it now.
The local foresters and the government claim that since April they've lost 80,000 trees to this latest outbreak, and if they did nothing about it, they would end up losing 250,000, and that would represent irreversible damage to this unique environment.
An ancient town in Turkey will soon be completely underwater because of a dam being built in the Tigris River that will flood the area once it's finished. The town, known as Hasankeyf, is located along the border with Syria and could be one of the oldest inhabited settlements in the world, going back 10,000 years. The region is filled with history. There are medieval monuments, Roman ruins, and even Neolithic caves in the area. The government is reportedly building a new town for the some 78,000 locals that will be displaced, and a museum dedicated to its history. Now, it's not clear exactly when the flooding will take place, but the dam is 80% complete.
Let's go to the falling birth rates now. And falling birth rates can cause big problems for developed nations across the globe. And one place where this has become a major concern is Japan.
So much so that researchers there have created an extinction clock showing exactly when there will be only one child under the age of 15 in all of Japan. This is so Japanese. I mean, I've lived in Japan and I love that country, and it just seems something that they would actually put together. So according to that clock, Japan is due to go extinct on August 16th in the year 3776. That's only 1700 years away, Christine. Of course, I think a lot can happen in a millennium. So it's actually a millennium and a half. So they may be able to turn things around in time.
You can produce a lot of babies in that amount of time.
I can, for sure.
Oklahoma recently had its biggest earthquake ever, but it's by no means expected to be the last. Experts say the state is seismically active and earthquakes are becoming routine. There's growing evidence it's linked to the controversial practice of hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, pumping water and chemicals into the shale rock to release oil and gas, and then injecting millions of tons of wastewater back deep into the ground. The number of earthquakes in Oklahoma has increased in recent years as fracking activity increased. The most recent one, on September 3rd, measured 5.8. It was centered in Pawnee, but felt across the Great Plains. It damaged some buildings, but didn't cause any major injuries. Some say Oklahoma got lucky because it was in a relatively unpopulated area. But after the quake, regulators ordered well operators to stop wastewater injections in a wide area around the quake's epicenter.
Tiny magnetic particles from air pollution have for the first time been found lodged in human brains. The discovery suggests a possible causal link between dirty air and Alzheimer's disease. Researchers used microscopic and spectroscopic analysis to find deadly magnetite particles distinct looking from those that form naturally in the brain. Magnetite is a magnetic toxic mineral long associated with neurodegenerative diseases. Particles under 200 nanometers in diameter can enter the brain directly through the nose by breathing. Samples of 37 individual brains from people living in air pollution hotspots, Mexico City and Manchester, showed some magnetite particles under 5 nanometers in diameter. Although not claiming a definite link between the particles and Alzheimer's, the team thinks future research on the possibility is essential.
Around 200 Zika cases have been reported in Thailand so far this year. The country's health ministry confirmed an average of 20 new cases every week over the past 3 weeks. Now, health officials struggle to downplay risks from the virus, fearing its impact on the country's tourism industry. The ministry added the number of cases is stable now. Meanwhile, Korea has confirmed its 12th case of Zika infection. The patient is a male in his 30s who visited the Philippines last month. And the mosquito-borne virus, which is largely affecting South America and the Caribbean, has been spreading out in Asia for years.
It's the strongest typhoon to hit Taiwan in 21 years. The Category 5 superstorm dubbed Meranti grew in strength as it skirted the island, carrying maximum winds of 227 kilometers per hour. Strong waves could even be seen crashing over harbor fortifications in Taitum County in Taiwan's southeast, where a guidepost was pulled out of the pier and washed away.
We've never seen waves like these. It's very scary.
According to authorities, 1,500 people have been evacuated across the island's southeast, and 500,000 households have already lost power. And Meranti is expected to do further damage. Experts say it will make landfall in the Chinese provinces of Guangdong and Fujian.
A rare tropical storm surprised millions in the southeastern United States. Tropical Storm Julia unexpectedly formed last night just off the Florida coast. It pounded areas around Jacksonville with heavy rain and winds. Some areas, in fact, could see up to half a foot of rain.
Good morning. We've gotten a break from the rain here on St. Simon's Island, but it's the wind that's giving a bit of a kick right now. You know, it is rare for a tropical storm to form over land. The National Hurricane Center says it's never happened over the state of Florida until now. Tropical Storm Julia. The slow-moving storm dropped up to half a foot of rain in parts of Jacksonville, Florida. Wind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour whipped trees and rattled stop signs. The downpour flooded roads and sidewalks. At one point, the mayor of Jacksonville was urging people to stay off the roads. And right now there is a tropical storm warning extending from Fernandina Beach, Florida, near Jacksonville, 45 miles north to where we are here in St. Simon's Island, Georgia. People have been told to expect 6 inches of rain, as many as 10 inches in some places. And the real threat from this, we're told, is going to be flash flooding.
Administration official told CNN the White House is planning to increase the number of refugees accepted into the United States from around the world to at least 110,000 in 2017. Secretary of State John Kerry briefed Congress on Tuesday about the administration's decision. He has stated over the past year that the United States would seek to welcome 100,000 refugees in 2017. The increase is more than a 57% increase in refugee arrivals since 2015. This is consistent with the administration's belief that all countries should do more to help vulnerable people. The United States refugee policy has been a top campaign issue in the 2016 election.
An Austrian cardinal has warned that many Muslims want to see an Islamic conquest of Europe and that Europe's Christian heritage is close to being lost. Christoph Schönborn was delivering a sermon at an event to commemorate the Christian victory over the Ottoman Empire. Schönborn was elevated to the rank of cardinal in 1998, having been appointed Archbishop of Vienna in 1995. Known for his conservative views and his diplomatic skills, many see him as future Pope material. He studied under Pope Benedict XVI and is sometimes even referred to as his spiritual son.
The UN says large amounts of humanitarian aid have still not entered Syria 3 days after a nationwide ceasefire came into effect. In the besieged city of Aleppo, the significant drop in violence saw people come out to visit the city's markets and celebrate the festival of Eid. But disagreements between warring sides and security fears are said to be holding up deliveries. This woman said, "We're happy and relaxed. With the planes, how could we go out for Eid? If there are planes, there's no safety. Everyone is scared." On the ground, the ceasefire is said to have largely held, though Russia's military released footage appearing to show 2 of its soldiers coming under fire, backing up reports of sporadic violations. Earlier, Moscow called for a 48-hour extension of the truce it brokered with the United States. The UN says 2 of its supply convoys, each of around 20 trucks, are stuck after crossing the Turkish border. The Syrian government has been heavily criticised for trying to block the aid flows to Aleppo, but it has said they must be coordinated through itself and the UN. Despite that, 2 trucks in the Turkish-controlled northern Syrian town of Jarablus did get through on Wednesday, delivering food and toys.
Israeli warplanes have carried out airstrikes against the besieged Gaza Strip. The Israeli military has said in a statement that its aircraft targeted 3 positions run by the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas. It said the attacks were in response to a rocket fired from Gaza into southern Israel late Wednesday.
After 10 months of talking, Washington has agreed a record $38 billion military aid package for Israel. The deal, signed on Wednesday, will allow Israel to upgrade most of its fighter aircraft, improve its ground forces mobility and strengthen its missile defense systems.
This is the single largest pledge of military assistance to any country in U.S. history. It's a reminder of the United States' unshakable commitment to Israel's security.
The drawn-out talks underscored continuing friction between the US and Israeli leaders over the nuclear Iran deal, but to avoid uncertainty with the new administration, Premier Benjamin Netanyahu signed. I'd like to thank President Obama and his administration for this historic deal. I also thank our many, many friends in the American Congress and the American people for their support, bipartisan support from the United States.
South Korean Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-ahn urged the Coast Guard on Wednesday to always be on the alert for any provocations by North Korea near the northern limit line in the West Sea. The sea border between the two Koreas was drawn unilaterally by the US-led United Nations Command at the end of the Korean War in 1953. But the North has long demanded that the line be moved further south. He also ordered the Coast Guard to crack down on illegal fishing by Chinese boats in South Korean waters. A growing number of South Korean fishing boats have filed complaints against illegal Chinese fishing as a major threat to their livelihoods. Meanwhile, South Korea's military chiefs of staff inspected the readiness of their forces. The Army Chief of Staff called on the Missile Command to be fully prepared for any possible missile strikes from North Korea. The Navy Chief of Staff checked on a Marine Corps unit on Yeonpyeong-do Island near the northern limit line, and the Air Force Chief of Staff inspected an Air Defense Command. The three chiefs of staff called on the military to be on full alert during the Chuseok holiday and to react strongly in case of further provocations by North Korea.
More and more people in Poland are volunteering for civilian militias. With new concerns about Russian aggression, the government wants to recruit them into a new reserve force. But some say they represent a worrying rise in nationalism. Simon McGregor Wood joined a group of teenage volunteers training in Warsaw.
They meet every Saturday, teenage members of the Polish Riflemen's Association, formed before the First World War, but today more popular than ever. It's one of the many groups springing up all over Poland, nearly 100,000 Poles, inspired by a new sense of nationalism and a fear of Russia.
Patriotism is a very important part of my life. Same with all the guys.
Most of this group are 16 and 17 years old. Many want to join the army, and all of them pay for their own uniform and replica guns. The Polish government recognizes this new enthusiasm for military volunteering, and to boost Poland's defensive capabilities, wants to use volunteers to create a new reserve force of up to 45,000 troops.
On Wednesday, after President Barack Obama criticized Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump for being too close to Moscow, a Kremlin spokesman dismissed Obama's comment, deeming it electoral-style rhetoric. Vladimir Putin went on to say that the president seems to be acting on Russophobia. Putin and Trump do seem to have a closer relationship than most. Putin states that it is because Trump wants to see a reunited union between America and Russia.
Hillary Clinton is to return to the campaign trail today after being declared healthy and fit to serve as US president by her doctor. The Democratic candidate's updated medical condition was disclosed by her campaign team. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, her husband Bill was standing in for his convalescing wife.
But I just talked to her. She's feeling great, and I think she'll be back out there tomorrow. So it's a crazy time we live in, when people think there's something unusual about getting the flu. Last time I checked, millions of people were getting it every year.
The beer is flowing, and so is the conversation at this Wisconsin bar. And the topic on the table? Religion.
There are just so many things that Christians say, no, this is a sin, but they have no support of that actually being the case.
Gatherings like this are part of a national trend of religious groups combining faith with cold brews.
They know what it is to talk about their faith in a church, but they've never done it. Most people have never done it in a bar, so it's a totally new environment and maybe fresh. In addition to that, I'll be honest, a beer or two doesn't hurt the conversation at all.
Brandon Brown is a pastor at Collective MKE Church, which doesn't have a traditional building. He holds these bar meetings called Jesus and Beer at least once a month and attracts up to a couple dozen people.
So the point of these conversations is to disagree with a beer and in a friendly way.
Angela Cadell started struggling with her Christianity 14 years ago because of its stance against gay people.
If you're an atheist, you're welcome. If you're I'm a lesbian, I'm totally welcome. There's no people group. Tonight we're talking about scapegoating. There is no scapegoating that happens here.
At the Basilica of St. Joseph out in Milwaukee and its partner churches, they are using the relaxed bar setting to connect with possible parishioners, especially millennials.
Not as an end, but definitely as a means to an end. And I think obviously the end is like greater faith and a relationship with God, but also just to be connected to a parish community somewhere where they're living.